2 if that helps. We both are struggling. Let's
It's
oh my
that time.
I am having to for the love. Oh, LinkedIn isn't letting me
Technology.
go live. It's not letting me go live because
Oh, it says live here. It's interesting.
does it say live on your end? I mean, no, we're live, but my LinkedIn won't let me. It's the
Oh,
anyways. Whatever. Welcome to technology, friends. I was just
it's been a
thinking
week.
and like we need technology, but then when
Right.
it doesn't work and when people try to say, oh, well, it's a user error, most times it is, but sometimes it's not. And so I was setting up, just anybody listening now or in the future, when I was setting up our live streams for this month, um, I've done it for 2 years, Jen. This is nothing new. And
Right.
all of a sudden, I go and I'm like, why does it say 7:30? And I thought, oh, maybe like it's Jen's time. No, Jen would not be getting up at 7:30. So I was like, this is weird. And I have no idea. Like the platform just changed, and I've been in conversation with them, and they're like, "Are you sure you did do it?" No, I didn't do it, people. I didn't do it.
It's been the same time for 2 years.
Like, guys, leave me alone. I know how to do it. Anyway, so those of y'all on LinkedIn, sorry that you can't see on my side, but it's working on you, Jen. So we're all
Yeah,
good.
working on mine. So who knows? We'll see. We'll see what
Who
happens.
knows? Who knows? Well, Jen, you just got back from a conference,
I
and
did. Yes.
um, I'm
It
trying
was
to think
good.
what I don't even know what I did. What did I do last weekend?
Who knows, right? It feels
Hmm.
like it's been a lot longer than a week.
I don't know what I did. I've been working.
Mhm.
Oh, I was at a CEO retreat. That's what I was
That's
doing.
right. I
So
should
we
have
both
known that
were
too.
out of town.
Yeah, yeah.
What
It
was
was,
what was something that was your one favorite thing from being
oh
at
gosh.
your writers conference?
Well, it's always great to be around writers. So I
It,
spoke on editing and I spoke on indie publishing. I had two different tracks. And the sun is all silly on my face this morning. Um, it'll move again in 2 seconds. And so, of course, hanging out with authors was great. It was nice to hang out. There were 3 Jennifers there, so we had the Jennifer Club, and that was fun. It was
were
really
they
a lot
all
of
the
fun.
same age? Like, were they all in your kind of age group?
Well, no. I was kind of in the middle. There's actually a gal who's I'm really good friends with. We've been friends for 20 years, and she's 12 years older than me. And then there was a gal who is, I think, about 10 years younger than me.
Yeah,
So,
so there were a lot of Jennifers in my class.
mhm.
And I mean, I was one of five Stephanies in my graduating in my 8th grade graduating class. So yay, welcome. Thank you, parents, for naming us.
Right. You can tell the
Naming us
generation.
loved
Yeah.
ones. Yes, 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 yes. That's awesome. Yeah, I think you're right. Community is something we need
Mhm.
as authors, and it is something that oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Jen. I just got a text. I was like, "What is this?" And I just got a text from my one of my kids' teachers, which you always
Mhm.
pause and read. But she
Right.
shared that my mom got to join my kiddo's Spanish class today for
Mhm.
Grandparents' Day. Anyways, we all need community,
Yes.
kids, authors alike, and so it is really important to get out and do it. And I found every time I do that, Jen, I walk away feeling a little more motivated and tired and
Mhm.
my ideas are running a mile a minute, but it's
Mhm.
because these people get us, like other people in our life just don't.
Yeah, it was really great. Our keynote speaker was Tosca Lee, and she has
Mm.
a number of really fantastic books out there. And one of the things she encouraged us to do, especially towards the end, was really draw on our own life experience and our own emotions and our own feelings to really flesh out our characters. And I
Mm,
think that there is just a lot of truth to that.
mhm.
The most, as I say often, the most realistic characters they're going to feel very real when you start treating them like real people with real personalities and real problems and real issues, and your own life can be a great source of that. So
Yeah, it
I thought
really
that
is.
was, yeah, that was really fantastic. So
It's so per usual, like we didn't talk about this or connect threads at all, but this is what happens when people get you. And what you just said about emotions, when I look at my CEO retreat, I think it's an interesting connection to what I walked away from. I was working on my new book. I was doing some client work, which I'm not allowed to do on CEO retreats, but I
Mhm.
was. I was enjoying some rest and relaxation, and I was watching videos or movies kind of in the process. Like I find that to be a way for me to check out.
Mhm.
But someone on my team is a big Taylor Swift fan. And I went down the rabbit hole of watching one of her documentaries, and I found myself texting someone on our team about it and acknowledging that, this concept of emotions and our work and our creative energy, it doesn't change no matter where you are on the celebrity spectrum, right?
Right.
So here I am, like Taylor Swift, who's like a really big deal, and the world sees and all this stuff, and she's leveraging her platform and doing some really great things with it, dealing with imposter syndrome, dealing with struggling with being seen and heard and feeling like she can do that, and some of these things that are around these emotions that we feel, and as authors we have to break through, and as creatives we have to break through, and yet they also give us a good basis for our writing. So yeah, emotions can be beautiful if we harness them, or they can be our worst nightmare if we don't. And we have to work through that so that we can do what we're really charged to do in this world. And Jen, I would suspect too. I mean, we're kicking off a new series on leveraging pseudonyms and pen names as authors, that emotions kind of go into why you would or wouldn't select to use a pen name as well. There's a lot of reasons that people may choose that, and I think emotions might be a basis of it.
It's possible. It's definitely one thing to consider, and I think there's a couple things to think about, and some of it definitely has to do with how much privacy you want, and how much you're comfortable with that or not.
Yeah.
And I don't know where my screen went.
That's
It's weird. There it is. It's back.
Okay, it's back. We could see you.
Oh goodness.
But you use a pen name, right? Like, so you've got a pen name. You have used them before. Tell me a little bit about why and how. I don't yet. So talk to me about why you would.
There's a couple things to really think about, and we have to probably, the biggest consideration is searchability. So is your name an easy name to search? Is it going to be, so if you have a complicated name or a super common name, you might want to use a pen name so people can find you better, right? People are going to be typing your name in. They may not get it exactly correct. And so you think about now, with people aren't necessarily going to a bookshelf where they might kind of look, oh, it's somewhere around here, right? They're looking online. So the algorithms have to be able to pick you up and figure out who you are aside from everybody else out there. So having a name that is distinctive is helpful. When you write then more than one genre. So I originally started all my books as Jennifer Crosswhite. The problem was I was writing historical romance and romantic suspense, and those are different audiences. There is some overlap, but they're generally different audiences. And so what was happening was Amazon in particular, their algorithm is very customer centric. And so if someone is looking for a historical book, they want to show them more books like that. Yeah. Amazon didn't know which of my books were historical and which were romantic suspense. So they were showing the wrong ones necessarily to the wrong people. That's a negative feedback loop. So if Amazon, they show them a romantic suspense book when they're looking for historical, and they don't like that, they don't click on it, then that's a ding against me and my books. So it made more sense after a couple books to split into Jennifer Crosswhite for historical, JL Crosswhite for romantic suspense. And that initial convention is very common in suspense and thriller and things like that. It's no secret. People know who I am. It's no secret.
Yeah. Yes, it's not a pen name for the identity element. It's a pen name in a pseudonym or a condensed version of your name to help with the algorithms.
Yeah, exactly. And so also to help readers, they know JL Crosswhite is romantic suspense. They know Jennifer Crosswhite is historical romance. I mean, theoretically, the covers should be very obvious that they're quite different. But that was very, very helpful. And then my nonfiction books are just Jen Crosswhite. And the difference is, and Amazon does pick up on those differences.
So do you have different author central accounts for each of those?
No, you can have one, and it will allow you to have pen names. So you can create a drop down with it. It's so actually biggest problem is Goodreads. Goodreads does not allow you to have pen name accounts, and they are a pain in the butt.
Very interesting. So, sometime in the future, maybe one day, I'll write my fiction series, and that feels very, very different than what I write, in the nonfiction world. So yeah, and maybe I should consider something like SL Feger or something where the last name's the same. If someone searches Feger, it would pop up, but it's not like the people who go looking for author stuff don't come across my fiction books on cats and be like, what is this? Right? Like it has a different thing. We both have the same middle name, right? Don't we? We're both Lynn. Yeah. Lynn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you spell it with an E or without? Mine is without.
With an E, yeah.
You have the E. And my daughter Lindy is Linden, named after Lynn. So we can pass that little nugget down. So like Joanna Penn does the same thing with her nonfiction and her fiction. She separates that. Where what is it? Is Joanna? I think it's Joanna Penn for her nonfiction, and then her fiction is
JF Penn.
Yeah, JF Penn or whatever. Yep. And there's other authors that do that too. So I love it. I love that we're not just coming straight out talking about leveraging a pen name or a pseudonym, which can I just tell you, pseudonym is like the hardest word to spell on the freaking planet. As I was working on social content and descriptions, I'm like, Stephanie cannot spell this word. That's okay. Thank you for AI tools like, spell check to help me. But, many of us think, oh, well, it's identity. It's like, let's hide behind the identity. And it's not always that. Like many times it is letting the algorithms work for you or helping readers differentiate different parts of who you are. As an author, I don't think we should have to be limited to the type of writing we write. If we are inspired and the creative juices flow, we should be able to go down another path. And this is a way to do it. Now, but some people, and I know I've known people before who do it because of the identity, the need to kind of hide behind this identity. Maybe they're sharing something that is very raw and real and they don't want to be found. Maybe they're talking about people in their lives and they want to respect those people, but still be true to the story. Or I don't know, maybe there's another reason, Jen. You've worked with authors. What are some of the reasons that you've seen people choose to use a pseudonym?
Yeah, sometimes it's actually not about what you're writing. It has to do with what your day job is. And so people a lot of times who are teachers or therapists or pastors or any kind of a helping profession where a lot of your work can be more private and there's more protections around it. Like with teachers, there's a lot of protections around that. They don't necessarily want clients and parents and students chasing them down. As an author, you do need to be out there, right? You need to be visible and public, and they don't want those boundaries crossed. They want to keep their writing life separate from their day job.
Yeah.
And that's a real legitimate reason to have a pseudonym in that case. And in that case, also, the other twist is you want to hide your face as well. And so I've seen a lot of fun things with that. So several authors I know would have like you think about your social media, right? They would have their profile pic, but it would be like they'd hold their book in front of their face. You just see
that's cute,
eyes, right? But now there's AI generated images, and so you can have it create like a cartoon character of you or a highly stylized. You look maybe more like a video game character or something. So people, but it's roughly based on you. Some people use like little logos and icons and stuff, but people really do respond to human faces. And so I love the idea of using an AI generated portrait with some, giving it some prompts to tweak some things for your author portrait. Now, I do have a friend who uses a pen name, and I accidentally outed her at a writer's conference because I used her real name because that's how I talk to her. Anyways, she uses.
Where was she at the conference?
Yeah. She was there. It was actually, she was hosting a little writer's retreat, and I called her by her real name instead of her pet name. And people went, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Oh,
never mind. Nobody. That's nobody."
Yeah. But she uses that name everywhere on all of her social media, and when she speaks with that name. And in her case, it's really not because she needs any privacy or anything. It's because her birth name is the same as a very well-known speaker's name. And so she wanted to make a clear distinction. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I am this, and so she used her middle name and her maiden name.
Oh,
So they're
cool.
names that she would respond to that seemed family and normal to her. And she's just used that for years. So she has no problem speaking under that name at all.
That's
Um,
cool.
and so post on social media and stuff like that. Other people I know that don't want their face out
Yeah.
there have used more of the AI stuff. Although when they're at author conferences, they have their pen name on their badge. And then that's fine. Because that's enough removed where
Sure.
authors aren't going to go figure it. We don't care what your day job is. We're not going to
No.
do that.
Yeah. You're safe.
It's more like clients from your day job finding out that you're an author and being upset or making suppositions based on what they read. So
Yeah. So we'll talk in a couple weeks about some of the challenges with marketing, and that's probably where I come in around some of what you're saying, right? Like it's easier to market if the reason you're using a pseudonym is because there's another person out there with that name, and you're just adjusting. You don't mind your face being there,
right.
or if you're doing it because it's different genres, and it's oh well, I'm just going by SL Feger because I'm writing fiction, and it's a little different. It gets more challenging and more creative and a bit more work, I think, for authors when there's something that you're not wanting to share and your face can't be a part of it. And so we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks and kind of some strategies around it. But specifically, Jen, and I just want to pick your brain and understand a little bit more behind the scenes of like, if you use a pen name, how is that, what implications are brought to the table? Like when it comes to working with a publisher or with legal or copywriting, like how does that work in the back end? Is there a process that says I'm this person, like a DBA, like an LLC would have? Is
Yeah.
that
You can, if you really want your, so I don't have this issue because JL Crosswhite is a legal entity. That is me, right? So I copyright my books under my, it doesn't matter to me. It's not a big deal. It can be Jennifer Crosswhite, it can be JL Crosswhite. It's no big secret. Sometimes you'll see this if you've ever taken a peek at the covers of books, and if you read the copyright page like I do, I'm weird that way, you will see that sometimes the copyright name is a different name than what's on the cover. And that's because it's copyrighted in the author's legal name, and they're using a pen name for the cover. And so in this case, that you would see that often with, actually,
I'm looking at I want to look at mine too and see if I can find
they're in my other office. I was thinking I was going to grab one of someone who I knew had a pen name, but I don't have it in here.
And I normally have a Joanna Penn book, and so I'm looking to see if I can find.
So if you have a pen name that you want to keep secret, then that gets a little tricky because your pen name is not a legal entity. And so the copyright, what people usually do to get around that is they create an LLC or a DBA, and that's who owns the copyright.
Yeah.
And then technically you're licensing it to them.
So I'm not going to share this book directly for many reasons, but there is an author I've helped in the past who has a pen name, and I was looking at her copyright, and the copyright is her pen name. So she must have a DBA set up or something kind of built into it.
I mean, I would say authors don't necessarily always know the legality of what they're doing.
True.
And they just put their pen name on the copyright page if they did not work with a publisher. The issue would be if you go to register with the Library of Congress, which I recommend people do, register your copyright with the Library of Congress. You need to register your legal name. And that is public record. If anyone cares to look, I don't know who's going to go searching, but you never know. Every once in a while you get weird people out there. And so that's the case where you would want to create another legal entity who could register the copyright, who could have the copyright, that is not, if you want to really keep yourself private. But it is a challenge. It's a challenge when you upload things to places like, the online retailers like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, right? Because you have to provide tax information, which means it has to be your legal name. Again, most of that stuff is kept separate and private because there's a separate spot where you put the author name, which is different than your account
Right.
you know. But those are things to think through. If you want to maintain privacy, then you should think about getting some legal advice around what kind of legal entity you need to set up so you can keep that privacy.
Yeah, and that is not Jen and I are not lawyers by trade. We know and I don't want to be at all. We know the industry enough, and we know some of the challenges that authors face, but definitely think this is one where when you consider why you might want to put on the mask, per se, asking someone who could help you really do it in the most effective way. Because if you're doing it for your own safety, if you're doing it for certain reasons, you may want to have additional measures in place where it is hard for people to find you.
Yeah, because if you do it the wrong way, for some reason, that is one thing you cannot change on your book record, like on the retailers, is the title and the author name. And so you would have to unpublish the books and republish them. Now, I didn't care. It was no secret. So what I did is I could go in and add the author. So I went on a couple of them where I'd already published them under my other name. I added, JL Crosswhite as the author. So it says Jennifer Crosswhite and JL Crosswhite.
Oh, gotcha. So, okay, so that would be a good thing to consider, that if you want to go backwards and help to, differentiate, you could add it as a second author in the journey, and that's no big deal because you're not hiding anything. Yeah.
No, for me, it was not a big deal. It was much more about the algorithm. And now the algorithm has straightened itself out, because it's been 5 years or whatever. And it's not an issue anymore. But it is one thing that I wish I would have done correctly, quote unquote, correctly, from the beginning. And then the other challenge that people have to think about is, so I have 3 names. So I have 3 websites. I have 3 newsletters. I have now on social media, I have one main Facebook account, but an author page, a Tandem Services page. And then, so my author page is both historical and romantic suspense. It's just not worth it to get that granular. And same thing with Instagram. I have a business account, so it's the author account, and then it's the Tandem Services account. Those things are different enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Audiences, readers versus writers. So those are different, but it does make more work for yourself if you start. And I know authors, they write a lot of different genres, and they might have, 4 different pen names. So, I mean, it's a lot of work, and it makes sense, right? If you are writing genres that are quite different, that you do with a different audience, if they're adjacent, then I wouldn't necessarily go write another pen name. I would just be very clear what your readers are getting. But when you do want to write something really different, like you want to write fantasy and you want to write sweet romance, those are very different audiences. You will need different pen names. And you'll want to keep separate newsletter lists because they're going to want different things. And so those are things to think through ahead of time. This is the business part. The artist part, right? It's like, I want to write whatever I want to write, and I want to think about it. And that's true. You can, but what are your goals? So if your goals are to make money and you want to leverage the algorithm to work for you, then you have to do some certain things to play in that field.
Yeah.
And you have to think about some things that you need to set up to make sure that works well. I don't know if you can tell, but it's windy outside. That's why
I see the glitter moving.
the bushes go in front of and away from the sun, and so my face.
No, but I think you're bringing up really valid points and things I want people to consider before they say yes, right? Like, before you decide you want to go down this path, the last thing I want you to do is to put more work on you when you don't have capacity to do the basic work.
Right.
It's like when I was at a conference once and authors were like, I should be on all the platforms for social, right? And I'm like, I mean, maybe. Are you going to show up well on all of them?
Do you want to be?
Well, I have a tough time just showing up on one. Okay. So let's talk about that. Or, well, but shouldn't I have an author page for this and this and this and this and this and all the pen names? I mean, maybe if in the ideal world, but like, do you want to be like a slave to media? Like, do your social media, like, do you want that to run your life? Like, you got to think about these things.
Right.
And, Yeah, I mean, it also gets costly, right? Like setting up different social is an issue, but because those are free accounts. But if you've got a scheduler, you have to get different scheduling accounts
Yeah.
likely, or purchase a scheduler that allows you to do multiple. Or if you have an email system, you will need to get different email systems like segmentations. Some systems will allow for that, others just won't. And you have to navigate, different accounts altogether, and that
Mhm.
gets costly. And as you think through that, you need to reflect on, from the financial side of the business, is that worth it?
Yeah,
Like,
I
is it?
agree. Think through all of it and
Yeah,
decide, does this make sense?
yeah.
And you still may really want to do it, and then that's totally fine. But it is really helpful to spend some time thinking through, how is this going to look? How much more work is this going to be for me? The other question is, if you're writing multiple genres, what's your release schedule look like? How are
Mhm.
you going to keep all of your segments happy? I will tell you that is a challenge. I'm not a super fast writer. And so,
Oh, you are, Jen, stop.
I haven't written a
You're
book before.
faster than a lot of people.
Well, that's true, but let's say,
Yeah,
and it's a huge continuum, right? There are people that pump out a book a month, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
they do write multiple pen names, and then they, oh, odd
Yeah,
number
but you're
months
not
are just
running businesses.
painting.
That's
Yeah,
all they're doing. That's
yeah,
all they're doing
that's
is
all.
book writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so like my historical, I think I released my last historical in the summer of 2020.
Mhm.
And I won't release another one till I don't know when. I've finished this series. My next series will be a split time. It'll be a historical. In fact, I went to a historical class at the local library last night that just sparked all sorts of ideas, which is what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But that is to say, I made the choice that romantic suspense was going to be my primary genre.
Mhm.
And I love history. And so I'm not like, I still send out a newsletter once a month to my historical people.
Yeah.
Um, and that, that's really great. I love those books and I love history and I would like to write more of them. But they are a secondary, they're not my primary genre. And so,
Yeah.
that's where I landed. So that means split time means I can write both of them sort of together.
That's
So there'll be a modern and a historical component to that. So
That'll be super fun. That'll be a
yeah,
merging of your genres. Well, I think today, hopefully, we've uncovered a little bit about why a pen name would be of interest. I know it actually has left me, someone who'd never thought about doing one, probably considering one. But it also left me thinking through things to consider before, because it's a lot easier to do it right the first time than to clean
it
it up.
is. Yeah, it really is. And especially if you're very concerned about your privacy, you'll
Yeah,
want to really look into how to make sure what's the best way to protect your privacy. And obviously a lot of that also depends on, every state probably has different um,
absolutely.
entities, legal entities, and what you can do with that. So check all that out.
Mhm.
Talk to an intellectual property attorney about that. A contract attorney might even know. I don't know. But just ask questions. Ask a lot of questions.
Questions are free.
That's right. And there are some really good, not that I would necessarily trust legal advice from Facebook, but there are author groups out there, authors who have gone down the path before that can give
Yeah.
you some ideas of what other people did. And then you can go check it out yourself and make sure what is going to work best for your situation. You've got to think about, how do you get money into your bank account, all those kinds of
Right.
things, right? All those back end stuff you need to really think about. And again, especially if you're trying to really protect your true identity, that those become really key because once it's out there, it's really hard to pull it back, right?
Is, and it's more costly to do it behind the backwards approach than the forward
Yes,
approach.
very true. Very true.
So we've got a couple of other discussions on this topic in the next couple of weeks. How to find a good one. I know we talked a little bit about today. If your identity isn't of hidden purpose, but I'll have fun exploring next week ones that maybe you are wanting to fully keep your identity safe and hidden. And then we'll look at marketing and everything in between on pen names. We figure the month of Halloween and
That's
costumes,
right.
fun month to
Your,
explore
your
this.
pen name mask.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right, Jen. Well, any parting thoughts before we close out today?
It's October.
Yeah,
How
I
did
know.
we get to
Yay.
October? Yeah.
I don't know. I was just looking outside and enjoying the change of weather and sweaters and flip-flop weather. It makes me
We
happy.
had fall weather and now we're back to summer weather.
I know it was 88 here yesterday, and I'm like, but because I work inside all day, I'm like, am I still fall attire living with my pumpkin spice world? And I'm like, this is how we're living.
I love it. Love it. I think it's interesting too. Some authors are inspired by seasonal change, and I think that's really
Yeah.
awesome. So think about whatever inspires you about your environment and
Mhm.
enjoy that. So those are
love
my
it.
parting exciting words. So authors, as always, you have power, your words have power, and your message has power, even if it's behind a pen name. And
Absolutely.
so we invite you to join us each week as we take all of these things, book and marketing, to the page and beyond. So have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week.
See
Bye-bye.
you next week. Bye.